Welcome back to CBS News Detroit, and specifically the Lions fans. The wait is almost over. Tonight, the team will kick off its preseason with a visit to the New York Giants. The game is set to kick off in just under an hour at 7. It's a chance for the newest Lions to show off their skills as they try to make the final 53-man roster. Joining me now is Colton Pouncey, Lions beat writer for The Athletic. Colton, what's been the vibe out there this week?
Yeah, it's been competitive. I think you can tell both teams, the Giants and the Lions, were ready to face someone other than their own teammates when they got out here for joint practices. Tensions have been high, a lot of fights out here. But I do think that's a sign of competitive edge and spirit, whatnot, going on over during training camp. And I think you'll see some of that spill over to the game as guys try to make the roster and fight for spots there.
That's my question, is where is the line between competitive and distraction? I've covered plenty of camps over the years where you see a fight here or there. This is getting rowdy.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And that's something, Dan Campbell talked about. I think when it gets to a point where it felt like it was disrupting every 5 minutes, practice, I think when it gets to that point, it's a little too much. And Campbell even agreed. The second day, I will say, was a lot more tame up until the final 20 minutes. Then things kind of broke loose again. So, yeah, I think they like the fact that they were going at it and, showing some competitive spirit there. But at the same time, if it's stopping you from preventing you from getting better, I don't think you want to see that.
Absolutely. Campbell also said that not a lot of the starters are expected to play tonight. But what do you think that will look like with guys like Terrion Arnold?
Yeah, he's a guy I hope is going to be out there on the field to play because I've been impressed with him so far his rookie year, first training camp. He's really holding his own against, the number one receiver for the Lions, Amon-Ra St. Brown. They've had some competitive battles out there. Jameson Williams, his former Alabama teammate. Those guys are good friends, and they've been going at it in training camp. So I'd like to see him, go against Malik Neighbors if he plays for the Giants. I think that's a fun matchup to watch. Another rookie corner, Ennis Rakestraw, he's been really competitive, really feisty for the Lions. He's a guy I'd like to see go against the Giants and get some run tonight. I think he will. So really, I think you're just focusing on the young guys and, trying to see if they're ready to start in the regular season and get some snaps there.
You've been around Dan Campbell longer than I have. What do you think he's really looking for? It's week 1 of the preseason.
Yeah, I think he wants his guys to stay healthy. I think that's first and foremost. You kind of go through a game like this unscathed, hopefully. And then you want to see guys compete and guys get after it because that's how this roster is built. He wants guys that are wired to play the whistle, nothing dirty, but, you have to have grit. As he likes to say, you got to be have a certain mindset to play for Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn and even Ben Johnson. So I think it's all about finding those guys, the last, 52, 53 guys on the roster that you can call on at any point and say, hey, I'm going to throw you out there. Let's see if you're ready. So I think that's sort of the mindset when those guys suit up later tonight, and I think they'll be ready for it.
I think a popular figure that a lot of people always have their eyes on is Aiden Hutchinson. Nobody wants to see a sophomore slump, but how do you think he's improved what we've seen so far this summer?
Yeah, he had a great year last year. I think he was second in the NFL in pressures. I think the goal for him is to turn more of those pressures into sacks this year. I think he finished with 11.5, and I thought he could have gotten more. Just, he missed a couple plays, finishing better, little things like that can help him get to 13, 14 sacks. I think that he has that sort of ability. Former number 2 overall pick. We've seen kind of make those strides over the years. I think he's ready for a breakout year and to be considered one of the game's best edge rushers. What we've seen in training camp has been, pretty excellent. It seems like he's ready to take that leap, and I'm excited to see what he does in week 1.
And that takes me to my next question. I'm not going to hold you to this. We're not taking it to Vegas. But if you have to pencil in a breakout player of the season so far, I'll give you a couple more chances in the preseason to finalize. But who are you looking at right now?
I think the obvious answer is Jameson Williams, just because of the lack of opportunity in past years and the opportunity we'll think he'll get this year. He's stepping into that number 2 wide receiver role, former first-round pick, has all the talent in the world to be that player, the deep threat, the guy that can stretch the field vertically, provide explosive plays for this offense. And Ben Johnson just really hasn't had the opportunity yet. His first year was injured. Second year had the gambling suspension. So this is the first real offseason he's had really without any hiccups along the way. And I think you're seeing him make those strides in year 3. And I think that's exactly what the Lions wanted from him, to be able to depend on him entering his 3rd season to be this kind of explosive breakout player. So he's a guy I'm looking at for sure. We'll see what he does this year.
Absolutely. Thank you, Colton, for that insight out in New York.